Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Streamlining Compliance with Indonesia's PDP. I am Jerry from Cybernetic Integra Data, and I'll be your host for today's event. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey as we explore how to navigate data protection regulations such as Indonesia Perlindungan Data Pribadi, or we also call PDP. And more efficiently, we gonna navigate how we navigate the data protections PDP law more efficiently and effectively through Denodo logical data management approach. And we're proud to have Denodo as our partner in this initiative. Okay, and we're joined today by two incredible speakers. There is Pak Shanmuga Suntarmunyadi, and Pak Beni Prabowo. For a glance introduction, Pak Shanmuga Suntar is the APAC Director of the Architecture and Chief Evangelist at Denodo, and a technologist with a career spanning over 20 years, mostly in data management and analytics. Hello, Pak Shan. How are you, Pak Shan?
Kabar baik, Jerry. Apa kabar semua?
Good, good. Thank you, Pak Shan. And also there is Pak Beni Prabowo, is the Director of PT Cybernetic Integra Data. He has extensive experience in fast data integration and supply chain, and in the implementation of strategic IT and analytics-based digital transformation. How are you doing, Pak Ben?
Hey Jerry, baik-baik. Hai semua, halo.
Thank you. Okay, we go to the next slide. Okay, this is the session notes. So before we go more deep into our event, so I have a note that this session is recorded and it is made available for a demand viewing. So we will be sending you the recorded session after the event is already end by an email. And for the Q&A section on your Zoom console panel, you will find a Q&A box where you can submit your questions during the session. We'll address them right after the presentation, and me as the host will select up to 4 or 5 questions as the session is limited to 1 hour. And there is, after the Q&A, we have the fun lucky draws that we have the fun lucky draws for those who participate by submitting the questions in Q&A box. So please make sure, don't hesitate if you have any question to us. Okay. Okay. For the today agenda, without further ado, I'd like to give the session to our moderator, Pak Beni. Pak Beni, the stage is yours.
Hey Jerry, yes, thank you. Ya, selamat sore semuanya. Thank you for joining our webinar. Hari ini cukup banyak yang join. Thank you. All right, today we will start with an overview of PDP compliance and data challenge in Indonesia. Then explore how logical data management with the Denodo can streamline compliance effort. We'll also walk you through to live demonstration. Of course, wrap up with the question and answer. So yeah, everyone here who joined the webinar, please prepare a question. And at the end, interesting thing, there is a chance to win exciting prizes from Jerry here. All right. Okay. This is the agenda for today. We start with the introduction, and then how we achieving a PDP compliance, and then success story, and then continue with the solution demonstration. Of course, there is a conclusion and question and answer, then the closing. So we have around 1 hour webinar for today's. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, start with the introduction. Next, please. Yes, based on 20 years statistical data breach from report, which is we capture from Surfshark here, a cybersecurity company that offers various online privacy and security solution. We see here Indonesia ranks 13 globally for breaches and the highest in Southeast Asia. So this highlight our serious concern about data protection around PII, personally identifiable information. So yeah, when we see here the picture about the PII data here, PII can be misused in a harmful way, such as data manipulation, identity fraud, or unauthorized use of personal data details to access investment or services. So a well-known a local example here in Indonesia is increasing number of online loan, or we call it ojol, where people personal data is used without their consent, right? Yeah, it's a common thing right now. That's why this is important for us. And then yes, continue please. Okay, let's take a look at this map. Yeah, this is a global map that we capture from DPI. The protection of personal data is in an increasingly digital world. Rapid technological development has made the information more accessible and borderless. But yeah, this also bring a higher risk, especially if strong regulation are not in place to safeguard citizen data. Yeah, for Indonesia, this context underscores how important it is to implement and enforce our own PDP law. Yeah, when we see the map, we are part of a global movement where data protection is not just a legal obligation, but a fundamental right to support trust, transparency, and accountability. Yeah, the PDP law demand the organization ensure data subject right, consent management, and yeah, policy enforcement are constantly applied across all the business unit. This impact how data is accessed, stored, and shared, even monitored. Compliance, yeah, is not an IT responsibility anymore, which is a company-wide mandate. Yeah, this is where a solution like Denodo become highly relevant, and we conduct this webinar, which is around data access policy, metadata search, data governance. So yeah, we partner with Denodo. We have a strategic partner with Denodo to bring the platform here to Indonesia to support this initiative. Next slide, please. All right. Yeah. Now let's take a look closer at in Indonesia PDP law. At the core of this regulation is the understanding that data is not just a digital asset. It's a lifeblood or yeah, stimulus of effective governance. The law emphasizes that data is interconnected, thus play a vital role in improving service design, service delivery, and in making more informed policy decision. Yeah, when we see in this article from ASEAN briefing, the PDP law marked a pivotal moment in Indonesia effort to protect personal data. It enforced a principle that all personal data processing must be conducted in a specific, legally valid, and transparent manner. This means Organization must follow strict standard to ensure individual rights are respected, particularly in how their data is collected, used, and shared. Yeah, the law is a significant step forward in building digital trust in Indonesia evolving data landscape. Next, please. All right. The key role and principle under Indonesia PDP law. Here we start with the data subject, which refer to any individual whose personal data is being processed. And then there is a data controller. This a party that decides how and why the data is processed. And then supporting them is a data processor who process the data on behalf of the controller, but only under their direction. And lastly, we have data protection officer who appoint to ensure that organization stays compliant with data protection regulation. The PDP law also introduced data classification. This is one of important about data. General personal data includes things like name, religion, while specific personal data like such as health record or financial information is considered more sensitive and require strong protection. At the core of the law are main principles here. The data must be processed lawfully and fairly for a specific purpose in a minimal amount, accurately, and with strong safeguards in place to prevent misuse or loss. Next, please. Some key item in PDP, which is personal data protection under Indonesia's PDP law. The first, the law outlines 6 legal basis for processing personal data, which is start with first consent, and then construct, legal obligation, vital interest, public task, and legitimate interest. Every organization must clearly identify which basis applies before collecting and processing any data. Next is data protection impact assessment, or DPIA. Yeah, this is mandatory when data processing may pose high risk to individual. For example, in case involving automated decision making, large-scale monitoring, or use new technology that could affect people's rights. And then we have a requirement to appoint a data protection officer. This applies when personal data is being processed for public services, when there is a regular or large-scale monitoring, or when organization process sensitive data, like for example, like health or criminal records on a large scale. The law also regulates cross-border data. Personal data can be transferred outside Indonesia only if the recipient country offers equal or better protection standards, or if there is a legally binding agreement in place, or if a data subject has given explicit consent. Finally, there are strict notification requirements. Organization must notify the data subject and the authorities within 72 hours in case of a personal data breach. Notification is also required if there is a corporate action like a merger or acquisition involving personal data. So yeah, that's why a PDP plans into the data governance process here. And then next slide, please. So what exactly is data governance? In simple term, it's everything we do to ensure our data is secure, private, accurate, available, and usable. So it's not just about technology. It's also about the people, the process, and the policies that guide how data is handled throughout its entire life cycle. Now, many people misunderstand what data governance really is. It's not a punishment or a reason to fear data or something we only do for audit. So, yeah, good data governance is a business enabler. It helps business trust, improve productivity, and support analysts, engineers, and decision makers to get the most of their data. All right, next, please. Okay, so yes, we have here Sean will continue and elaborate how Denodo can streamline data governance here. Please, Sean.
Sure. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, Pak Benny. Yeah. So we understand very clearly from Pak Benny how important PDP law is to the organization, to the country. And of course, now it becomes a responsibility of each one of us to ensure that we actually do it right and optimally, to ensure the data is protected while we actually go ahead with the progression of our business and operations. Now, I think Pak Benny mentioned one important thing, right? It's not, PDP laws and other compliance and regulation laws should not be seen as a punishment, right? The idea is that how can we turn that into an opportunity for us to do better business, and of course, progressively grow with the organization moving forward. So let me just touch on that a little bit further, right? So Jerry, could you just progress a little bit? Next slide. Yeah, so I found this very interesting chart from Thales. I think some of you might know Thales is a an organization that's been focusing on not only cybersecurity but implementation of security across the data that is going to be very sensitive, confidential for government across the globe, for example. But they also expanded that reach to, for example, financial sector and other sectors that is dealing with very sensitive data. So according to them, there are three pillars that we need to take note when we are talking about PDP law and complying to it, and how to be very data centric in ensuring that we enforce a security approach, right? So first, they talked about we actually need to protect the entire data set, right? Data flow. Not necessarily only data at rest. We also need to look at the data in transit and data in use, right? So it is a comprehensive, complete view of how we look at data protection. So once that is taken note or taken care of, second comes to the part that how do we then apply and manage data security for all these three layers, right? Data, at rest, data in transit, and data in use. So that is the management part. And finally, the most important part is enforcement of this policy across the enterprise, right? Because we do not want to leave anything behind, no stone unturned in order for us to do this, right? So these are the pillars, right? Jerry, if you want to go forward. If I want to then take this, core, Jerry, next slides, please. Yeah. If I take that core, right, or the core pillars and try to sort of dissect it into what I need to do in terms of the overall framework or the process flow, right? First, we actually look at discovery. I think Benny mentioned this briefly, right? we need to understand in which system and how our data, the sensitive data, PDP data, PHI data, PFI data is actually stored and managed and used. So that understanding is very, very important. So that's why the discovery part is very crucial. Second, we come to the classification. Again, to make sure that we understand how the data is being used, how it can be leveraged. It is very, very important for us to classify it very well. It means tagging, it means labeling, so that we know and we very clearly the different levels that we talked about, right? In transit, in storage, as well as in use, we know how I should treat a particular data item based on the labels, based on the text. So classification is very important. Comes part of risk. This is basically understanding the risk of using this data, which is labeled or not labeled, in the context of the enterprise. So understanding that is very, very key. Once we understood the classification, understood the risk, then now we move on to the next level, which is protecting. And this is very, very crucial, because what we talked about in discover, classify, and risk is just understanding the data. Now, when it comes to operationalization, that is when we actually look at protecting the data. And this is very, very important as part of the process flow, because how well you protect the data will actually means how actually then the data will actually turn into opportunity for us to leverage it for business purposes. But now it is not stopping there, right? Protect is, yes, it is very important, but we also need to look at it as a continuous process. That's why the management part of it is very, very important, right? But Benny also mentioned and touched this about the life cycle, and of data. We need to ensure that we understand, we protect, but we also learn from what is the undiscovered areas of risk that we need to manage too. And that's the reason, if you look at the arrow, it is actually going back all the way to discover, so that we take the learnings from this process and then we apply it to the next round of life cycle management of data security framework, so that we can ensure that it's a continuously managed data protection framework. Now, we actually understand this very clear, right? It is actually very clearly defined framework, but why is it so important? A challenging task for organization to really enforce this. Jad, if you can go to the next slide. The reason why it is very complex, because if you look at our data ecosystem, this is what we see, right? Now, from the day when we started digitizing our system, right, when we computerized, and then we gone through the process of digital transformation. Also, if I then multiply that with, say, for example, industry progression, right, industry 4.0, for example. Now we actually also went through the process of looking at the age, right, the data age, data science age, and then now we are looking at AI age. In this whole spectrum of what I just discussed, right, the key challenge that we're trying to achieve is that how do I deliver data, which is actually at the bottom there, right, to the different use cases, decision-making points in our environment, all the way from your visualization to data science, machine learning, to applications, to different use cases that we have, and of course now AI. That is where we are actually continuously progressing into delivering data, for this different use cases to really leverage it in an optimal manner. But of course, if you look at the ecosystem that we have, right, data is distributed, data is all over the place, and the usage also coming from different angles, from department, from different users. In some cases, for example, in the case of financial sector, public sector, for example, there is a need for us to expose data for external users, right? It could be citizens, it could be your, account holders in the banks, for example. That means the usage is actually gone beyond only centralizing it to an enterprise. Now, if that is the case, the usage is growing, but I look at my ecosystem, it is still very complex and it's distributed. And then, Jerry, if you can go forward one more slide, right? What happened next is this. When I let that happen, no, just go back one level. Right. So when I let the users to go and consume the data in a way that they wanted, because of the siloed ecosystem of the data, even on top of, I'm actually already having data lake, data warehouse, data mart, and now I implemented my lake houses. The problem is I still need to go get data from multiple systems without a unification layer that can actually allow us to do that very, very easily. That means all these issues that you're seeing here, right? all the way from metadata management, security, from data preparation, metadata management, which metadata I should believe or I should use, trust. And that is actually conveyed to how do I then manage my PDP, PII, PHI, PFI, for example, right? This becoming very complex because the ecosystem of our data environment is very, very siloed still, even though, as I mentioned, right, we actually have data warehouse, data lake, and so on. So the idea is that how do I move forward to optimize it? Now, if I then look at why we are actually at this layer, this challenging ecosystem, Jerry, if we move one slide now, then you see that the reason is because we are dependent, very, very highly dependent on the traditional data management practices, which is very highly utilizing ETL processes, ELT processes. I still need to copy data from somewhere, from the sources. I need to still put the transformations, and then I load the data into the target before someone can actually leverage it. But of course, there's a lot of delays there, right? Data need to be arriving into location before the users can use. But in the same process, as I mentioned, data transformation can be very different from different use cases, different projects, different departments. At the same time, how do I manage and control my security can be very varied too. So this is where the complexity comes in. And that is, in a way, is because we actually have this baggage that we're carrying for the last 40 years, which is our traditional data management practices, right? So Jerry, go next. So with that, now we know that for me to manage my PDP effectively, all the aspects that Pak Benny mentioned a while ago, right? We actually need to treat data as a strategic asset. And for that, we need to then look at how can I look at data more strategic in an enterprise situation, an enterprise scenario. If I go that and then see what will be the solution that I need. Now, that is the big question that we need to answer, right? I'm sure that everybody is thinking about that. The next, Jerry. So you all remember this diagram I just showed you, right? Our ecosystem is complicated. We are dependent very heavily on the traditional data management, practices, which are very heavily on data copy, data replication. We need to break away from that, right? So one click there, Jerry. Now, if that is the thing that we want to do, right? Imagine a scenario that rather than I dependent too much on the ETL process, data replication, if I have an environment that actually can unify, streamline in an agile manner, without need to copy data, I just go and connect data wherever it is, and then I apply the data compliance required, including my PDP on the fly as you consume the data. That is the best option possible. And that's what exactly Denodo is providing, and that's what exactly Pak Benny was explaining a while ago. The kind of solution that can help organization to move forward with the PDP compliant initiatives, right? Let's move on. So if I zoom into the first, the middle part there, right? Jerry, if you can go next slide. The middle part there, right? The red part there. Then if I break it into what actually behind the scene that is actually helping organization to move forward effectively, what you see is that you have the source systems all the way from your databases, your files. Now we actually moved on to cloud, for example. Now your cloud-based data sources. You have open file systems like Parquet and Iceberg and so on. But at the same time, you also have a lot of on-prem applications, right? For example, SAP, doesn't matter. You also have SAS application that you implemented, right? Salesforce, for example. And of course, this is going to continue. What Denodo is providing is a connector which is optimized to connect to this environment without the need to copy data, right? Connect, what you bring is actually metadata, right? So after the integration layer, the first layer, right? Second layer is manage. So there is where you use the metadata that you brought in to unify and model your data products. So again, in the whole process, you realize we actually leveraging metadata a lot. And this is where, remember, the framework we talked about, right? Identify, tagging, labeling, protect, and manage maps very well into how we can leverage it. Rather than looking at physicalization of data, virtual layer of data can help us to do this much, much better. Once we actually does the protection required in this layer, next is how do then I expose this information for consumers to start consuming data. And that is when the delivery layer comes in, which is a single entry point for data, single entry point for data sharing. That is where the protected data is actually used or shared very easily to any consumption layer on top, right? Jerry, let's move on to the next level. If I break down the barriers a little bit further, right? And then one more click there, Jerry. If I want to just go zoom into what are the capabilities that we offer to ensure that you can be very successful in your PDP enforcement and implementation, you actually see all the list of capabilities there, right? One is, of course, user-driven policy and security implementation. Either you do it within Denodo or you integrate with the third-party data governance tool that you have. By all means, that is supported. Very, comprehensive security policies, including classification and tagging. That is part and puzzle of it. And all this actually done during the logical modeling layer rather than physicalization layer, right? And of course, you then enforce that. And I do not want to go too deep, but if you can actually see the list of authentication and authorization that we actually support all the standards that's out there that allow organization to move forward effectively in delivering PDP compliant data for any use case that we have, right? Now move on, Jerry, one more click. Right. So I want to just frame it back to what Benny was talking about, right? How do then we frame it in terms of data governance? Because you cannot look at it as two different things, right? If data security is one layer that you operationalize it, but the strategic layer is the data governance approach. Why Denodo type implementation is an optimal solution for your PDP. First, you actually have one single entry point for not only data access, but at the same time, enforcement of your data, right? In terms of data security. Next, you don't care where the data is residing. Denodo can actually go and integrate all this data as one single agile layer of your data without the need to copy data one more time, replicate data one more time. Next click, Jerry. The third point here, right? Data marketplace is actually delivering this data to the users to consume it by self-service. But very important, we already applied the policy for PDP in the modeling layer itself. Next point, Jerry. Third layer comes part of how do you monitor and on ongoing basis audit what you're doing, right? Remember the risk management, right? Is very, very important. The entire spectrum of the usage is actually monitored and governed within the Denodo platform. And the last point there, Jerry. Right. Without the need to copy data one more time. What is the benefit? Because then I'm not replicating my PDP issues, PII issues, so that if you have lesser copies, obviously what that means is that lesser issues, lesser data breach, lesser governance issues, right? So that is the whole idea that if you comply to all these key areas that Denodo offers, this becomes a fundamental platform for you to be successful with your PDP implementation, exactly like Benny was talking about earlier. Next slide, Jerry. I want to just touch on a few use cases that make sense, to sort of complement what we just talked about. Next slide, Jerry. All right, so this is TEM. I think many of you know, very, a predominant organization in Indonesia. They deal with in the Toyota car distribution, management, and so on. You can actually imagine how much of sensitive data, PDP data they're handling, right? In the past, they had same issues, right? Data is all over the place on the data warehouse, on the files, on PCs, on mobile phones. That was a big issue for them, right? So data PDP issue is a major issue for them. And they looked at a solution and, luckily we spoke to them at the right time and they implemented a logical fabric. And that actually gives, remember the benefit that we talked about, right? One single logical layer to comply to and manage the entire spectrum of their data management lifecycle, allowed them to be very successful in managing their PDP issues, right? Next slide, Jerry. This is a DNB. I think some of you might know this is a very large financial organization. Again, they are a very complicated organization because they actually have a lot of legacy system in place, a lot of new system, a lot of information of the customers all over the place, right? Again, a nightmare when it comes to managing PDP, and in their context in Europe, it's more GDPR. So when the GDPR requirement comes about, they were very, concerned about how I'm going to manage this, right? So luckily they spoke to Denodo at the right time. We implemented the logical fabric for them, and that is being the governance layer as far as the data is concerned for the PDP environment. Now, what that means for DNB in this case, one strategic layer for them to govern data and secure data as far as the use case is concerned, right? So very interesting use case as far as DNB is concerned. Click on the next one more use case there. So Assurant is another one interesting case, right? They actually deal a lot of data, especially when it comes to support services. Again, a lot of PDP data, a lot of sensitivity data, same issues, right? A lot of data all over the place. They actually wanted to enable this, logical layer to be a central logical layer for them to manage PDP and move forward. Obviously, logical layer with regards to fabric that is implemented by Denodo, be the fundamental elements of them managing this environment very well, and also being compliant as far as GDPR is concerned, right? So there you go, right? I mean, of course, if you're interested in going deeper into these cases, let us know. We can actually share the details about each of the success stories a little bit further so that you can actually learn from that too, right? Next slide, please, Jerry. At this point, I hand it over to Pak Benny.
Okay, hello,
All right.
Pak Shan. It's hand over to me.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yes, before we go to the demonstration. Okay, thank you, Pak Benny and Pak Shan, for the insightful material and discussion. It's very helpful regarding the PDP requirements as in still hot in Indonesia. So before we move on to the final section on today's demo, I'd like to remind to everyone to feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box, and you will have a chance to win an exciting prize during the spin wheel session at the end of this event. Okay, now for the demonstration, I'd like to hand over to Pak Rusya, who will guide us through the demonstration. Please, Pak Rusya, go on.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this demo session. My name is Rusya, Solution Architect from Cybernetic Integra Data. And today I will walk you through practical demo based on data governance framework that was already presented by Pak Shan. Without delay, let's dive in and experience how Denodo helps organizations comply with Indonesia's PDP law. Next screen, Jen. Okay, before we begin, let me briefly explain of today's live demo. As we can see here, these are the 5 steps of the data governance framework: discovery, classify, risk, protect, and manage. Basically, step 1 and step 2, discovery and classify, will be handled by an external platform. For the discovery part, is basically connecting with your data. Well, we can on Denodo as a single point source point of truth, we can connect all major data sources, such as for the sample here we have SQL Server. You can also have another platform like GCP or AWS, or also on-premises platform like many database platform. And all these tools can help you with the discovery of data assets in your organization. For the steps to classify, we can also rely on the external platform. For the open source, maybe we can name like open metadata or data hub. For the enterprise, maybe we can mention like Collabra or Microsoft Purview, etc. And step 3 to step 5. Now, this is actually we handle on the Denodo platform for the risk, protect, and manage steps. Next, Jen, please. So for discovery, we scan the database and connect that to our data platform. And this scenario, this screen, actually we use Azure SQL user interface. We identify the existing data assets, and then we get the schema, the tables, and the column information, and then we scan those information, and then we detect which are those sensitive data fields. Like here, we have detected that first name, last name, email address, phone number, okay, and more. These are categories. We categorize this as PII, personally identifiable information. And based on the PDP law, PDP compliance standards, this information, we categorize that as a PII. Next slide, Mas Jen. And then for the classify, we identify which columns actually contain sensitive or personal information that must comply with Indonesia PDP law. As you can see on the screen, we already detect email address, a national ID, a birth date, a phone number. They are all recognized as PII data. So we assign sensitivity label in this case. We mark them confidential. So this classification crucial, yeah, because it tells the downstream system, again, Denodo, it is how to handle and protect this data. Next screen, Mas Jen. Okay, we move to the next step, risk. Basically, for the risk step, we collect the classification and put that into Denodo. We integrate the scanned labels. We integrate the definition of the columns, which are the PII. And once the data, we connect the data from the Denodo, we start tagging, the tagging each field based on the sensitivity. From the screen, we already type that first name, last name, email to confidential text. Okay. Next screen. Yeah. And then after we define the risk, we tag, then we protect. Okay. Identifying labeling sensitive data, we need to make sure that it's properly secured and cannot be accessed in its original form. The true protection method available in Denodo are data masking, where we hide partially obfuscate data to protect it from exposure. And then we also have hashing, where we convert data into encrypted values, irreversible encrypted values. On the demo, I will show you how to protect steps implement in Denodo. Next. Yeah. Okay, we also have role-based access control, where we can manage user permissions securely and efficiently. We created, for this scenario, we created two roles, which is banks manager for user at the managerial level, and also bank staff user for the staff level. These roles are predefined with necessary access rights that reflect their responsibilities within the organization. Once the roles are defined, users are assigned accordingly. For example, we assign loan staff user as a staff, yeah, and we assume that admin as a bank manager, yeah. Okay, next. Yeah. And then we manage, yeah. Building on previous configuration where we assign user into specific roles such as a bank staff, now we are applying and maintain what we call global security policies to those roles to ensure protected and compliant access to sensitive data. Denodo allows us to manage protected data through flexible global security policies, which can be updated or adjusted at any time, depending on the organization compliance requirements. In this example, we have enabled a policy named bank confidential hash. This policy assigned to bank staff role and is applied to all views that are tagged as confidential. That means any data marked as confidential will follow the rules defined in this global security policy, such as masking or hashing. Next, Mas Jerry. This is actually the output scenario. If we logging as a staff, yeah, after applying the global security policy, this is what user will see, yeah, because you can, as you can observe on the screen, all the sensitive columns, sensitive fields, first name, last name, appear all in hashed format. This is a direct result of the global security policy that was set to protect confidential data. Next, Mas Yeri. Yeah. Last but not least, the audit trail. Yeah. This is also the one of the key advantages using Denodo. Its ability to track and log every action that occurs in the system, ensuring full transparency and accountability. This helps us meet with regulatory requirements and also improves operational visibility. The first image, the upper image, shows the audit trail of global security policies applied. You can see the list of user activities that involved queries where global security policies were triggered. And the second image, we also have the audit trail of user activities. This logs records every user action, starting request, scribing table, executing query timestamp, IP address. With all of these audit capabilities, your organization can trace back any data access, investigate suspicious activities, ensure full control of your sensitive environments, all will stay aligned with PDP law requirements. Okay, jadi can we move to the demo? Okay. Let me share my screen. Wait. Okay, now we on the Denodo user interface. Right now on my screen, we already logging as administrator. Okay, this is basically a page of administrator, and let's focus on the global security policies. I already opened the global security policies. This is where we put the how we treat column level protection. We have here a confidential hash, and also we have two rule here. And this is actually right now disabled. So we will compare the results. Okay. And then we have one table. We have a DV customer table, which already have text as a confidential. Wait, we hide here, right? Okay, confidential. And what is the confidential text means? Obfuscate field by masking and hashing. So we will use the hashing. Okay. Right now we have the data here. We can query that. We have data here already. Yeah. And then we will log in. We log in as a staff user. Okay, this is staff user, yeah. Now we, as a staff user, trying to connect to that table. So we still have here the table, and also the confidential text, and then we want to see the data. So this is a staff user, yeah. Staff user must see the hashing data, not the real data. No, if we query here, the staff user still see the original data. Now, it means that the global security policy has not activated. And then we activate the global security policies. Okay, this is enabled here, still not enabled. We enable hashing right here. Or there are many options here. We enable. Okay. Then we log in again as a user. This is tab is for the loan staff. We select the customer, and then we do execute. Right here. So this means that the global security policies for activate, for obfuscate the PII data already activated. And this rule, this rule will all for the user here consistently will see this screen. Yeah, hashed columns. Okay, thank you, Mas Jerry. Okay.
Okay, I will continue to share my screen. Producer, you can stop.
Okay.
Okay, for the conclusion, with Pak Benny, you can take over.
All right, Jerry. Thank you. Yeah. Let me try to conclude the webinar session today. So yeah, we'll start from PDP based on our understanding and also based on the discussion. So I can highlight here. So we make it simple about the understanding of PDP. I can say that yeah, how we responsible with the customer data or in handling a personal data, how we collect the data, and then how we store the data, how we disseminate the data, responsible to the whole process of data lifecycle, which is here we have a framework, a PDP framework, which is how we can discover the data, discover the whole data and entire organization. So we have metadata search from Denodo, so we can easily connect the platform to all the data sources and then search the metadata, which is we can connect the data without sending the data out, just connect and then bring the metadata. Just we can search the metadata, we can discover the data, and then the second is classify. So how we can classify all the data based on the demo from Rolsha, and then elaborate the technical from Shan. Data classification is very important in the PDP process, which data contain PII and then contain the personal information. So based on the classified data, and then continue with the risk, and then protect, and then how we manage. One of example here, especially for the financial services, that they have to store the data for, if I say, 20 years about the data retention. It's mandatory for the bank to store the customer and the transaction data for 20 years. And then if there is a request from the data subject to delete the data, and then how Denodo as a platform can discover, and then from the data classification, we can simply search and then delete from the call store data with a single access policy from Denodo. We can do that with Denodo. That's one of example. And then yes, I can close with the conclusion here, that the PDP is not it's not just for an audit or a punishment or a reason to fear data, but we can think really positive way in handling PDP data, especially in governing our data. Yeah, the first, of course, when we implement PDP, we build the trust to our customer, and then how can improve the productivity, because we really understand with our data, with all classification and how we process the data, and then from analysts, they can understand about their data from business domain, product domain, customer domain, or all transaction with of course with securely store and process for data. Yeah, from engineer, they have entire visibility for data, and the decision maker can get the most out of their data. That's a conclusion for me. Shan, if you want to add, go ahead, Shan.
No, definitely. I mean, Benny, you concluded very well. I just want to say one important thing. In our experience helping with a lot of customers, one area that we helped a lot is really breaking away from the thought that, data governance, data security, PDP is actually very stickening, very rigiding, or very, like prison, like you mentioned, right? It's not the case. We can actually overcome it and turn it into a really an opportunity for us to do better.
All right. Okay. We're coming to question and answer here. We got some of a question from joint participant here. Jerry, you want to point at some of a question, or just I can pick some question from my side?
Just go ahead, Pak.
All right. Okay, let me start with the technical question first, maybe. So hold on. I would like to ask whether Denodo also provide ROPA, RUPA, as it's an important part of PDP law also. Sam, you wanna
Yep.
help in answering this?
Sure. So
Thank
the
you.
quick answer will be yes, we provide that, because as part of the auditing, as part of the metadata management, as part of the data lineage that we provide, that is actually can all be documented into ROPA. That is actually used by a lot of our customers who implemented GDPR in the past. But of course, the same can be done for PDP and many other use cases. What is actually interesting that's actually happening, and this is from version 9.2 onwards, and in fact, we also just recently, announced another capabilities called Query Rack, right? And deep query, right? So this is actually extending that capability where we actually enable AI to help us with generating ROPA type documentation. And in fact, extending it a little bit, the deep query capabilities can actually help us to provide an extensive detail in documentation about a specific rules and regulation that we are trying to comply as part of this tool is concerned. So quick answer, yes, we provide it as part of Denodo.
All right, thank you, Sean. I will choose a question for Cybernetic here. How does the Cybernetic support local customer in implementing Denodo? Yeah, I will answer this, of course.
Your favorite.
Cybernetic is a local strategic partner for Denodo, especially in bringing logical data management to support the enterprises, local state-owned, or even the government. And then, yes, start in platform itself. We also have a subject matter expert, especially for banking, who can assisting us in hand-in-hand working with the subject matter expert from Denodo to deliver a best solution to the client. In this PDP case, yes, we have some of portfolio, client portfolio who already implement this. Sean already mentioned during the technical explanation. And then, we work together and we collaborate together with our customer to deliver all the initiative together with the principal to ensure that instead of integration all the solution, we deliver the expertise with the Denodo. Okay, maybe a last question. I can take. Okay. Can you briefly explain how Denodo ensure data security and compliance, particularly in industries with strict regulation? San, you want
Sure. It's
to
a
take
very,
up?
very
Yeah.
nice question, very interesting question. So, if you look at our sort of percentage of customers that we have in the industries that we support, I can say that the two very big sector that we support very well from Denodo point of view is definitely financial sector. Financial meaning financial plus insurance. The other big sector is government, defense, right? So and healthcare. Now, obviously, what that means is that these are the sectors that has got a lot of sensitive data, PDP data, PII data, PHI data that need to be secured. Why, Denodo being very, very successful in this space is that many of the capabilities for us to, from an operational point of view and from functional point of view to protect the data, either, as I said in the architecture earlier, right? Either you want to implement it out of Denodo, or you want to actually have a bidirectional integration with a third-party tool that you already have for the purpose of maybe say governance repository, right? Like Calibra and many others. Denodo provides one very crucial architecture in this whole equation, which is one central location for data access. What that means is that when you apply all your security and governance rule, especially for your very, very sensitive data, Denodo becomes one central location for data access and data provision. Obviously, what that means is that we are enforcing all our security, PDP, governance rules in one central location, not on all the distributed architectures that we have, right? So again, I want to actually maybe answer that in two ways. One is being a central data access and data delivery layer, it becomes fundamentally an optimal security and PDP layer. That's one. From a second point of view, we actually provide comprehensive, ability to ensure the data protection and data, privacy. Of course, what Parusha showed us is just two methods. There are many others, right? Encryption and so on. And in some other cases, you want to still use the data for the purpose of effectively meaningful analytics, even after you anonymize your data. And those are the things that we support out of the box. So these are a few areas that we actually been helping the industries with a lot of sensitive data for them to be very, very successful. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. What I can do is also, if you're interested, we can actually share a lot more cases of how we actually help them in these industries to be sure.
All right,
Okay.
Syam, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
exit the timeline, so I can only take 3 questions. So yes, please, Jerry, continue.
Yeah. Please, for the question and answer, there is more interesting, I think. There is from Pak Ismail from Bank Sinarmas. From an audit perspective, what is the strategic purpose behind implementing audit data controls for PDP compliance? And how do these controls demonstrate the effectiveness of an organization's personal data protection framework? And what evidence would an auditor expect to find to validate their operational effectiveness and adherence to PDP requirements? Maybe Pak Shan or Pak Benny can answer.
Maybe I can jump on this. I mean, this is a very interesting question. In fact, we can't maybe conclude it in this webinar. I would definitely, Pak Ismail, if you're willing to, we can actually have a deep down discussion about how each categories works. But I mean, just give a very high level capabilities, right? We want to actually have a very optimal control of data in terms of understanding, for example. Let me take an example, right? I have a research requirement from a university for a specific, maybe say, diabetic, outbreak or diabetic increase, right? Obviously, of course, that data need to come from multiple locations, health location, maybe say in the case of citizens, data from healthcare, and of course, in some cases, you need to actually share the health episodes, right, over the time, because that's how you go about researching and predicting this information so that it can be useful for others. However, in delivering this information to the researchers, we need to be very, very careful in terms of what and how we want to deliver data. Now, why this is auditing and tracking is very important is because See, obviously, when the results come out, right, there will be a lot of critics who actually want to ask you a question about how do you arrive to this decision, why, and what was your data that you got, and so on. At that point of time, we need to have a documented proof, like ROPA, for example, right, to actually facilitate to say that, oh, this is the reason why this data is provided to a particular researcher, and then this is why the result is as such. Say, for example, that point of time, we need to validate. This is where the auditing and monitoring becomes very, very important, including the workflow, right, in terms of approval and so on, very, very important. And obviously, of course, it might trigger, say, for example, a change into how you want to actually control and manage the data. And we need to still monitor and manage that requirement as we go. So that is why, the auditing is becoming very, very important. And I was actually just sharing healthcare research, but you can actually look at it from a fraud detection. It can be looked at from terrorist, kind of movement that we want to protect. There can be many, right, which actually very, very sensitive use case. Crime detections, for example, right? All this will need a lot of proof of the data, not only from metadata, but lineage, data protection details, the workflow of approval, how do you anonymize and protect your data before you actually release it. So that is the reason, Pak Ismail.
Okay, I hope Pak Ismail already have the answer from Pak Shan. And for the last one, maybe from Pak Ontang Gabe Parolian, is this solution available for on-premise installation, and what are available options of license model?
Pak Benny, you want to answer that, or you want me?
Yeah. Let
Please
me
go
answer
ahead.
the question.
It's your favorite.
Yeah. Adding your answer for Pak Ismail. Yeah, of course. We come from a technology side, and we also have to emphasize in the ground level of implementation, which is the standard operating procedure locally. Yeah, we usually use tata kelola. That's also important part, and also the RACI metric, which is who responsible, and then uh, who inform, and then how organization build the standard operating procedure in implementing. That's also important, which is with all the supporting document applied on the implementation. All right. And then the question about what is solution available on-prem or and how's the license scheme? Yes, the solution is available on-premise and also available on cloud. It says we can make it a hybrid, both on-prem and cloud. And then the license scheme is it's a subscription based, which is a yearly subscription license. There are some tier of license from Denodo, starting from standard, enterprise, enterprise plus. Yeah, based on the user requirement, how plan to use Denodo in the implementing for the organization. Yeah, for example, like data governance with generative AI come to Enterprise Plus. So yeah, we can discuss further detail to discuss about the license scheme. We can make local discussion right here. All right, go ahead, Jerry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I have the last one from Pak Iswan Nursandi. He has a few questions. The first one is, in the age of AI and automation, how can we ensure data handling remains aligned with principles of transparency and self-governance? And the second one, what can small business like SME do to stay PDP compliant without making things too complicated or expensive?
Okay, so let me answer the first question. I leave the second question to Pak Benny. Yeah. Now, the first question, if you look at, very, very interesting question. In fact, this is what almost all the customers that we talk to is asking about, right? How can I actually look at AI and automation and also use it for the purpose of leveraging especially when you look at self-governance and so on. I look at it from two angles. When you look at AI, AI can be sort of broken up, right, into data management into two aspects. One, AI for data management, right? So basically we actually leverage the AI capabilities to automate, to optimize the data management practices so that we can actually be a lot more automated rather than always need to have a analyst or expert there to build for us. Why not we use AI to actually automate and build for us, right? So that's AI for data management. The other flip side of it is data management for AI. Right. So obviously we all know, I think I'm sure that you heard this term from somewhere. Your AI is as good as your data. Right. What that means is that the fundamental or the foundation layer for your data, for your AI, need to be very, very optimal. Otherwise, that is when you actually look at things like biasness, hallucinations, and many other things, right? So what we actually always educating is that if you leverage your data management optimally, and this is where Denodo comes into picture, being that fabric layer which unifies and governs your data and give you a trusted data based on the central logical approach, gives you the benefit of having the foundational layer that's optimal for your AI, ensuring the AI becomes your fundamental data that you can depend. So your data, your AI is as good as your data. Denodo provides you that platform that is optimizing your AI. Right? I hope that answers the question. But of course, we can actually talk about that a little bit more with some examples, Pak Izwan, yeah, but very good question. Pak Benny, I want to just maybe ask you to maybe look at the second question, if you don't mind.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, the second question is, what can small business or UMKM micro do to stay PDP compliant without making things too complicated or expensive? I say that's the question. Yeah, back to the PDP law. Based on the discussion, refer to 5 main principle, which is the important is first, how data must be processed lawfully and fairly. That's the first. And then the second is for a specific purpose, which is around classification. And then in the minimal amount, basically here how we can store process in the effective way, which is still responsible. And then the third is accurately, and that's also important. And then strong safeguard in place to prevent the misuse or loss of our data. So we can answer the question about this, how expensive or how effective. It's depends on the use case and also leveraging the platform itself. Hopefully answer the question.